the Lake Wales Arts Council here for your virtual summer arts camp, and this is Mr. Alvarado.
Howdy guys, this is Brandon Alvarado, the Education Coordinator for the Lake Wales Arts Council. Welcome you back to another great virtual arts class with Miss Blair for our summer arts camp. So let's get started.
Okay, today we are going to draw portraits using a grid method.
Ooh.
All you really need is your paper, pencil, eraser, and probably a ruler. That would be a good idea. We don't have a regular ruler, we only have this.
Yes.
We don't know what you guys did with all our rulers.
Go big or go home.
So we have printed out photos
Yeah.
that we're gonna work from. These are a couple samples. He's going to do an animal portrait. I'm gonna try to do a person. So should I do Morgan Freeman or the girl?
I feel like she's always done
her? Yeah.
but I like
We'll do
Morgan Freeman.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do first is with our ruler,
Okay.
measure out how big this is. And if you wanted to enlarge it, you could take these measurements and just double them when you do your squares. This is 8.5 by 7 3/4. I can
Okay.
probably write that down because I'll forget.
Yeah, can I have the rule when you're done, please? Oh, dropped my pencil already.
Okay, so on my paper, I'm gonna make a box that is that size. Because we're gonna try to keep it true to size.
Yeah.
So 8.5 by 7 3/4. I'm using the edge of this to kind of get it squared off. You should probably do a better job than I'm doing at this and actually try to get it squared.
Yeah.
If you're doing the same size, you could also cut this out and actually just trace around the edge of this. But we're doing it the hard way. 7 3/4.
Hard work builds character.
Also tiring.
Yeah.
And then 8.5, so that worked out. I didn't get it too crooked.
There you
Maybe
go.
just a little bit. So we're gonna do that. And what we're gonna do is draw a grid on here and an identical grid on here so that we have a way of comparing what's in each section of the grid. And so I'm gonna get another straight edge. And what I'll do probably, do we have scissors? I don't think we do. I'll just
somewhere over
fold
here
this.
with you.
So I'm trying to get it to where I can do this the easiest way possible. So I'm trying to make it so it's just the picture showing, not all this extra white. If you leave all the extra white space on there, it's gonna throw you off because it will not be the same dimensions anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm just folding this so we can't see the white. Oh, here's some scissors.
Mine was 4.5, and is that what, 7, 6?
You might just cut yours out.
Yeah. I'll just do that.
Okay, so I'm gonna cut it out. There's always more than one way to do these sort of things. If you're not really good at numbers, then you might just want to make it the same size.
That's me.
But if you wanted to make a really big one, you're gonna have to measure it and multiply it out to double or triple or whatever
Yeah.
you're doing on whatever size paper. So I'm just cutting this guy out, which I probably should have done beforehand. Oh,
Thank
we
you.
Have
We have more than
scissors.
one pair of scissors. We're prepared.
And this is a technique you can make for doing things that are huge. Like when I do backdrop murals for the concerts and stuff here, if I'm not just making it up, if I were copying a sketch,
Yeah.
I would do this
Okay.
to make something that's wall size even. So this is something you can apply to whatever scale. So I'm folding this exactly in half. I'm gonna run my finger down it so it makes a good line. And I'll fold it in the other direction too, so I can really see this line. Run your nail down it, kind of cut some of this ink off. So I've got one down the middle, and then I'm gonna do 2 more. So this is at least in quarters. And do it the same way on each part. And if you want to afterwards, you could trace this off in pen if you can't see it very well. I'm sort of used to doing this, so I know what I'm looking for, but it might be hard if you're not used to doing it. I do this sometimes with paintings, and it's something really big too. drawing,
Yeah.
just to make sure that it's accurate and you get everything in the right place. Because sometimes it's hard just to have enough space to step back and see it well.
Yeah.
So this way you know you got it.
So like those really big palm trees that we had in your exhibit.
I made those up. I don't
Oh,
know.
okay.
Yeah. Sometimes I just wing it. So I'm folding this in quarters in both directions so it'll make boxes. And then we're gonna do the same sort of thing on our big paper as well, but we'll do it with pencil. And since the dimensions are the same, this should be matching up. So here we have it all gridded out in squares. And I'm gonna make this happen on this paper as well. So what's 8.5 divided by 4? 2 point something.
Math was 100% not my specialty. Sorry, Mom.
Although that dimension looks like it's 8 instead of 8.5. Never mind, it's only 8, so then we're just doing 2s.
Okay.
Right?
So yeah, survey says we're doing 2.
Unless I've measured this out wrong. Oh, you know what? That's the wrong edge, is why it's not 8.5. Something is amiss here. I bet you I had it on like the German scale or something.
One of these things is not like the other.
I'm not known for my math skills. Okay, so we're gonna just do this.
Neither am I. Pay attention to your math class, guys.
Yeah. And we're gonna find,
So now I
sometimes
gotta,
it's easier just to find the center.
yeah, so now I gotta trace mine. Hope for the best.
Sometimes I just say, if this is 9-ish, and that's 4.5, and that's 2 1/4,
Yeah.
and then I count backwards. Close enough. So we have this mostly right.
We're gonna see how good my cutting skills are.
So I've kind of made little hash marks all around the edge, and now I'm just gonna make light lines going across it, because we're gonna erase these later. These are just guides so that we know what to put in each box. And you will not be in a hurry, so you can be very meticulous about this when you do it. But we don't want to bore you drawing forever. I'm just lines, so. And I'm doing this really lightly.
Had to stand up for this one.
Mr. Alvarado, did you hear me say do it very lightly?
Yes?
That's when no one's usually listening. Okay, so I have the same grid on my paper here that will match up to this grid. And what I'm gonna do is start with just the first box that lines up with this box. And I'm gonna look at what is in just this box. If you wanted to, you could even cut these boxes out and it would work the same way. I've seen people separate these and give each person a box.
Oh, wow, really?
And it'll line up. If you just draw exactly
Yeah.
what's in your box, they can put it together and make a painting. So I'm looking at where his hair is coming out to in this box, and I'm thinking, oh, it's about halfway, and then it goes up to this corner. And so that's how I'm doing this first thing. This is all I'm doing. I'm thinking halfway across this box and up to this corner, which where it touches the line for the other box. That's his hair. So that's what I'm gonna do across this whole thing. Like I'll look at where his hairline ends, and I'd say that's just 1/3 of the way down this middle box. And the corners of it kind of come out. This is a very symmetrical picture. And then I look at the outside box and see that his hair comes about 1/3 of the way over on that side.
Because I have a smaller picture, I'm gonna need not as many boxes, you think, or go smaller?
No, I do more boxes.
Okay.
Because it's gonna really help you get the eyes and stuff in the right place. So you don't make them too big or things like that. So I've done the top 4 boxes already. Looking at this and just doing one box at a time. We're not looking at the whole picture, just the box. So we'll go down to the next 4 boxes, and his hair is continuing down about almost halfway, and then his fingers begin. And I know that they're ending not even halfway across the box. And then I'm gonna look at where this pinky finger is, and it doesn't come quite halfway up either. So So this, and I'm doing this really lightly still. Looking at this fingers coming out of the pinky and coming about a quarter way up there. And if you get this box skewed, it'll squish this in one direction or the other. So that's why it's important to measure accurately.
Probably do another one.
So I'm looking at where this line is in relation to like the top of the eyelid is a good place to look for. So that's almost dead center in this box. So I'm going to start with the top of the eyelid. And if you want to, any of these boxes can be divided into smaller boxes. So if you're having trouble really telling where it is, you could always fold this again and put an X in the middle of this box and make even smaller boxes to help you guide. So I'm looking at where it ends on this side and on this side in relation to the box. And this, sometimes it's hard to get features the right size because we think like the eyes are the most important thing and our brain automatically makes them too big. That's one of the things we see. Or maybe we're not really understanding the shape that we're looking at, and so this helps us get it more accurate. So I'm just looking really closely at all these shapes, even the line in his face and which direction that's going, because that's a clue to the, it's like putting together a puzzle.
Yeah.
So each line is a clue to the next thing and how it all relates. So I'm looking at where his eyebrow is, and when you look at someone's face, actually the first thing you look at to identify a person is their hair.
Yeah.
And then after that, you look at the eyebrows. That's why we can still recognize everyone with their mask on.
Really?
Yeah, because that's the first thing you do is hair and then eyebrows.
Like
it's actually very hard to recognize someone if you remove their eyebrows. If you guys look this up on the internet, it's really interesting. Like, you can't tell.
So if
It'll be like Richard Nixon, and you'll be like, who is that guy?
So if I shave my eyebrows, you know, most
we may not know who you are. You had to shave your head too.
Oh, well, I'm not gonna shave my head. Thought about it, but no thanks.
No. So I'm still just carefully observing where these things are lining up in relation to the box and to each other. So I've just done this, sorry to pull this out, but I've just been looking at what was on only this box for the eye. And so I can get it all in the right place. And I'm doing this across the whole face. Another important thing for really making a good likeness is getting not just the eyebrows right, but where this hits and between the eyes and the width and the shape of this little spot here. So I'm making sure I get the width right on that for him. He has kind of a crazy eyebrow over here, but I'm not going into a lot of detail yet. So I'll just kind of leave a wild, light, crazy eyebrow, and we'll deal with it later. So we want to make sure that our eyes line up. Sort of important. This eye almost looks bigger than the other one, which is interesting. Which faces aren't completely symmetrical. One side's always a little bit different than the other. Like when I look at this eye, if I'm looking at the white under the eye, this eyelid's hanging way lower than the other one. There's a bigger white space below here, which you wouldn't think about it when you're looking at them normally, but if you change this when you do his portrait, it's not going to look like him. And
you think maybe it could be because maybe his hand is pushing his eye up a little bit? Yeah,
it might be that it's pushing it up on this side.
Yeah.
So that makes it look like there's more weight there too, like he's really leaning on his hand.
Yeah.
That was a good observation.
Oh, see? Learning a little bit today.
Yeah. So I'll make this eye a little bit bigger. That's why, because I was looking at my grid going, why is this one eye big?
Yeah.
There was logic to it eventually.
Just had to find it.
So we got that in here. And go ahead and put the bags under his eye and everything. That's part of the interest of this. And I'm gonna get his nose in here a little bit. and I'm constantly looking back and forth. So I'm trying to figure out how long his nose is and how wide. So I'm gonna go down to the next box and say, like, there's the bottom of his nose, and that's it's a little more than a third down. And so I'll get to about third down and make a little hash mark so I know. And then I'm gonna look at both of these boxes to figure out the width. So on this left-hand box, it's about a third over the edge of his nostril. And it also lines up with the colored part of his eyes, another thing, the way I could look at it. And then the other one goes almost halfway over and once again lines up with the colored part of his eye.
So question, how come we're using mostly black and white instead of color? Is there a difference?
It's just a little easier for us to see values because you're just gonna keep this in, values are how dark or how light it is. So if you're just keeping this in pencil, it's a lot easier working from a black and white photo than color. So that's why we're doing it this way. So I'm just gonna get his nose and his mouth in, and then we'll stop and move on to the next step so that you guys can see kind of where to take this from here.
And I'm just having a good time drawing a grid.
And he's learning how to draw a grid. We should have made your grid in advance so you could get to the drawing part.
We know for next time.
And I'm really looking at the shape of the nostrils. And sort of this little line here on the side and where it is in relation to everything else. Where the nostril ends according to the grid.
Yeah.
There's so many ways to compare this. And then he's got, I think you call this a nasolabial fold under here.
I know
So
what
I'm
that
putting
is.
that, yeah. So we're putting that in here too. And then I've got to figure out where the center of his lip is actually a little off center in here. And it's almost the very bottom of this box. And it looks like the edges of his mouth are lining up with the edges of his nose.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at these lines too.
I know I wish Morgan Freeman would narrate my life. That'd be kind of cool.
And he's got like a pretty thin upper lip here, so I'm just gonna imply that a little bit because we'll put that in shadow. And then the bottom lip comes right down to the edge of this box. And we don't want to make it like too lip looking, you know?
Yeah.
We're just trying to get a very abstract idea of it in here. So it's not like drawn on lipstick lips.
And I guess another question too is like if we took a portrait of Morgan Freeman from maybe 20 or 30 years ago, would we see a major difference in his face?
So everyone's nose and ears keep growing.
Yeah, nice.
And so his nose would probably be lifted up a little higher, and we can't really see his ears in there. And then you lose your fat through your cheeks, and it all sinks. So like it ends up down here because there's not fat holding it up. It's not that your skin is completely saggy, it's that it's missing stuff that used to be underneath that was holding up higher. So that's kind of what you see.
So we get a completely different portrait.
Fat moving.
Yeah.
The bone structure is still going to be the same, but some of the cartilage and the fats are moving is what's happening. Now your eyes are always the same size through your whole life. That's why babies look like they have huge eyes in comparison to their head, which is kind of interesting. So this is helping us get it very accurate to the picture. And you go through and do that through the whole thing, but I'm gonna move on to the next step just so we can show where you can take it from here. But we're gonna do actual shading with this, and I'm gonna start with one of the eyes because I enjoy doing the eyes. And we'll actually go through and shade this. And I'm not a believer in smudging.
Yeah.
Like finger oils get on there and it gets kind of like messy. It's better to learn how to actually make strokes with your pencil. So that's what I'm gonna do. And to figure out what's the darkest part of this, I'll squint at this, and when you squint down, you can see like clearly where the darks and lights are.
Yeah.
So when I squint down, the darkest part is probably gonna be his upper eyelid and his pupil. So I'm gonna go ahead and color that in. I'm not going to do it super dark because I might change my mind on some things, but I'm going to go ahead and get it in there because you can always keep darkening and darkening and darkening as you go along. You do, when you draw or paint, want to pick an area that's going to be your darkest dark and your lightest light and really keep it like that. And so I'm just making little like hash marks with this to get these darks and lights in. And you can squint to help us see where they are. And then some of us are still be working on our grids.
Yep, that's okay.
And I'm gonna have your parents help you with the grid if you're struggling with measuring.
Yes, because I am.
And so I'm looking at where the dark is curving up around like his brow bone here. So I'll get that area.
And then guys, don't forget, if we're going a little bit too fast for you, you can pause the video, rewind the video, and start from there. Take this at your own leisure and time.
Mm-hmm.
And then one thing we like to see, as we start to kind of see this all come together, show us, if you want to show us like your progress on how you're going from your first step to your second step to your third step. We'd love to see what you guys are creating at home. Parents, if you're doing this at home, we'd love to see what you're doing too. So definitely send it to us on our Facebook or Instagram at Lake Wales Arts Council. We'd love to see the different creations that you guys are doing, maybe what portrait you do. Maybe you took a portrait of yourself and you're doing a self-portrait. Or maybe you're also using Mr. Morgan Freeman here. But we'd love to see what you guys are doing. Or my lion's on the floor, so I'm going to go get him in a second.
So I'm just getting, so I did sort of first layer just in that one box of the eye. And I'm going to go back in and do another layer and darken it down. And then I'll go back in and erase out a couple highlights too in the eye to really make it pop. But now that I know that I have it in the general right area, it's safer to proceed instead of starting super dark.
Yeah, and then having to go back
and
erase
then trying to erase it and it scarred the paper and everyone's mad. So we don't want to do that.
Yeah, so the key, I guess, is light strokes.
Yeah, go in, be conservative going into it and take your time. We don't have to do this all at once. So I'm making it super dark in some of these places so that it really gives it more pop. But you want to make sure it's just in the right place first before you commit to that sort of thing. And a lot of times I draw with more straight lines. It's just a little easier to do it that way. And so you can see I'm still even doing that with these. He looks like he has cataracts.
Yeah.
When I look at this picture, his pupils are a little hazy. So I'm just getting some of this darkened down so it has a little more dimension. And you can squint to make sure that you're getting it darker in the right areas still. Keep squinting.
I have a grid.
Yay!
Let me go retrieve my lion real quick. Excuse me. It's on the floor here. Oh! Got it. Saved it. Alright.
So I've almost got all of this in. And I'm doing some of these, I'm cross-hatching with my pencils, so the pencil strokes are going in some different directions. When you do the eyebrows, we don't want to make like a solid thing or make just lines. Like I'm not drawing his eyelashes. That's one of the mistakes I tend to see more. Like when you look at someone, unless they have falsies on, you don't typically see their eyelashes as much. Or not in the way that you think where it's like little lines. Like they're all going in different directions. They don't all look identical. So you have to be very careful with doing that sort of thing. So I've got this in pretty dark. And I'll show you guys what it looks like in a second. And let me eraser out a little highlight in his eye. It's kind of easier to erase it than to keep avoiding it. And if you have, they have different hardnesses of pencils. This is probably a 2B, which is like semi-soft. If you have a drawing pencil set, the higher number in the Bs are the softer pencils and they'll be way darker. So here's what I have so far in just that one box. And let's see if we can hold it up there. But you can keep working and do the entire thing this way. And as you go along, you can start to erase these grid lines, especially so that you don't just have lines going all through your portrait. But that is how it is done. So remember, keep your darkest darks in there, your lightest lights, and then you need a middle tone to kind of give it a roundness.
Yeah.
But that's how I would proceed. And you can do an entire portrait of a person like this.
Exactly. Or you can do a grid and get started on this little portion of the lion here. But thanks for joining us, guys. Make sure you send us those pictures. And we'll see you in the next video.
Okay,
bye, guys.
Bye.